Okay, so I'd like to welcome Kelly Hoffman to our class today. And Kelly, do you want to go ahead and kind of just introduce yourself and tell us what your title is?
Yep, my name is Kelly Hoffman, and I am an RN at St. Pat's Hospital. I actually work for the Heart Institute Foundation, but I started at St. Pat's as a new grad. Um, I had my BSN through Montana State University.
Nice. So you went to Bozeman. We're not going to hold that against you or anything. Did you do like the regular program or the accelerated program? Because I know they offer both there.
They didn't have the accelerated program when I went through.
Oh, okay.
So I did the regular program. I did my lower division in Bozeman and then was placed in Missoula for my upper.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
did you get your bachelor's from Bozeman then, or is that?
Yes. It is
Okay.
all through Bozeman. Yeah.
Oh,
So when
okay.
I went through school, you had to apply for upper division and they placed you in either Missoula, Great Falls, or Billings.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually didn't really, I never grew up thinking I wanted to be a nurse. I don't have any nurses in my family. I went into it because of the range that you could, evolve into basically.
Yeah.
And that there are a lot of options for you as a nurse, and that the pay was a lot better than, being a teacher, because I initially wanted to be in education.
Oh.
And I just kind of took a few nursing classes, and I thought, um, if it works out, it works out. If not, I'll just have a plan B. And then I applied for Missoula, hoping to get in. And I
Mm-hmm.
honestly said to myself, if I get placed in Great Falls or Billings, I'm going to do something else. But so luckily I was placed in Missoula. And yeah, that's just life.
Wow, that's kind of
Yeah.
crazy. When you were going through like your introductory courses, do you remember taking like a human form and function or a basic anatomy class?
Yeah, I remember AMP. Yep. Took actually started late. So I started my second semester doing prereqs and took a class in Butte over the summer to catch up so that I could restart back in the fall.
Oh, okay.
Because back then they would only offer like AMP1 or AMP2 in the spring or the fall. So
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't take it, in alignment, then you'd have to wait a whole nother semester. So I took an extra course in Butte.
So when you were, it sounded like you kind of serendipitously chose like nursing, but was there like a class or something that you kind of took and you're just like, oh yeah, like that's kind of interesting to me?
No.
No, you're just like, oh, nurses have good jobs.
Well, I hadn't really thought about it like until a bunch of girls in my dorm was going into nursing, and I'm like, huh, that sounds like fun, and a good
Yeah.
opportunity to grow,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone said it's super hard to get into, so I just kind of buckled down and did it.
So as you're going through your education, was there anything that you found like super helpful to prepare yourself to go into that field? Like, were there
Yeah,
any?
so I did not do what I should have. Like for people who want to go into nursing, I highly recommend becoming a CNA, certified nurse's assistant,
Mm-hmm.
and, getting any job you can basically in a hospital,
Mm-hmm.
just to help familiarize yourself with the environment. So I just walked into a hospital blind, and it was super uncomfortable, super nervous. I was a waitress. I worked at a coffee hut. I did everything but, be in a hospital setting or nursing home or, assisted living, anything working with people. I
Yeah.
think waitressing helped with multitasking.
Yeah.
I
And
think that
interacting with
helped.
people.
Yeah, yeah. But the whole assisting and taking care of them, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think
It
becoming
definitely helps if becoming a medical assistant, or just to, yeah. And I think it would also help if you familiarize with all of the areas, then you can kind of more focus on what department or area you want to go into.
yeah, it's almost like a low stakes trial run, before you
Yeah.
invest so much time in your education. Like at least you can kind of go in at a low level point, try it out. You, like you're saying, see all the different specialties, and then get a better sense of making an informed decision as to like what the future will hold for you.
Yeah.
Um, so that's, I guess that's a great, I think, point, and I think a great tip for students like that are seriously considering, I think anything in the healthcare field, like even if you're wanting to
Mhm.
go to medical school, I think there's no harm in becoming a CNA just because it gets you
Nope.
a lot of experience and probably look pretty decent on an application too.
Right. And I think that, if you were to do that and then become a doctor, you understand, just all of the levels, and you'll remember your time doing that, and you might,
Have empathy.
the empathy for all of those, people. Or even if you were to become a nurse practitioner, like I
Mhm,
suggest becoming a nurse on the floor first,
mhm.
just I think you just learn a lot that way.
Yeah.
Something that you're not going to learn in a classroom.
Yeah, and I think so often nowadays when people are looking to get jobs, your people hiring are looking for people with experience,
Yeah,
experiential learning. And yeah, you can read
you
things in a
can't go
book.
wrong with a clinical experience.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. So it sounds like, okay, so you spent your undergrad years in Bozeman, you came to Missoula, you did your training here. When you were doing your training in Missoula, were you in a hospital or were you?
Yeah, so I think my senior, yeah, you would float. My first clinical experience was in Bozeman, and we went to nursing homes.
Oh,
And
okay.
so that, was just learning how to take vital signs, that kind of thing. And then when I came to Missoula, we did like a cardiac rehab unit. And so we just kind of worked our way into the hospital.
Hmm.
Um, for my management class, I was placed at Curry Health Center.
Oh, cool.
But I felt a little shortchanged because they had me working on their computer system to help triage patients,
Um,
um, as they presented to the clinic, which I wanted to be like on the floor, or, with the nurse manager, that kind of thing. So I
hmm.
didn't feel like I really got anything out of that.
Mm,
So I think I should have been more vocal, maybe.
hmm. Yeah, and I
But
think that's important is always to be an advocate, for
yeah,
yourself,
but
especially as
even
a
through
young
the
person.
nursing program, I feel like you don't get enough clinical experience. And then when you graduate, you just, you're there and that's it. And
Yeah.
I feel like maybe nowadays it's better, but when I went through, it was minimal, the amount of
How,
time floor experience we got.
yeah. So I guess I have two questions for you. How long ago was it that you got your degree? And then you keep using the term floor, and I just want to maybe define what
Oh,
that is for some folks.
okay. So I got my degree in 2004, and then I applied, I think I applied at community, but they didn't have any openings. I applied at St. Pat's, and then I went in for my interview, and they asked me what unit I would like to work on, and I
Hmm.
said anywhere but cardiac. And she said, "Well, that's unfortunate because the only positions we have opening are on the cardiac floor." And I said, "Okay, well, I guess I'll take it." And so that is where I have been ever since.
But
So when I say floor, I mean on the inpatient units in the hospital.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, but you say you've been there ever since, but
Okay.
your role has changed drastically, correct?
So I've been in cardiac ever since. So I
Okay.
worked night shift on the floor, which I do recommend as well. Starting out night shift, I think is the slower pace. You get to actually learn about your patients instead of being thrown in on the day shift and then people are coming in and people are going out. I think night shift is just a slower pace
Hmm.
where you can actually sit and get to know your patients because they're
Hmm.
not going to specials or, procedures, that kind of thing. Um, so I did that for 4.5 years. And then I had a friend reach out that worked in cardiac research to asked if I would cover a maternity leave. So I would work my shifts and then I'd work my 12-hour shifts night. And then I would go to this other job covering for research in the morning and I would stay until 2 or 3. And so I would go home. Usually I did that on my last night of my um, schedule. So I'd work like 3 in a row and then be
Wow.
done and go work this other job. And then they asked me to come on full time. And that's where I've been ever since.
So you say so you started a role as a cardiac research nurse. Would that be accurate to say?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
We're called research coordinators, but yeah, we're nurses.
Okay.
Hmm.
So, obviously working on the floor, you're seeing patients come in, come out, go through surgeries. It sounds like as a cardiac research nurse though, that or coordinator, that's far different. So what does that kind of look like?
So this is helping devices or drugs get FDA approved. So what I do every day is work with sponsors and the physicians to bring research to Missoula so that we can serve a greater population and provide them technologies that they can't get elsewhere in Montana, basically. So we kind of serve the upper Northwest. And what we do is, for an example, say there is a new heart valve that they are testing. They've, gone through different phases of research and now they're ready to test before FDA approval. And so they reach out to me or we reach out to the sponsor if there's something that the physician is super interested in and wants
Mhm.
to try to bring to our hospital. And we get that approved um, to roll out at our hospital. And then I talk to patients who are going to undergo these, surgeries, see
Mhm.
if they qualify, see if they want to participate in these research trials. And then if they do, then we put them in the trial and then we follow them per the protocol.
So
And
you're
then once the trial ends, then normally these, heart valves or heart stents or cardiac drugs get FDA approved and then they're on the market.
Wow. So you really are like essentially the cutting edge of research for like the application of like things like heart valves or any other like type of like cardiac manipulation that could be.
Hmm.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So do you collaborate closely with like medical schools across the entire United States, or is it, or like where do you how do you, who approaches you to do this research?
Yeah, so it's basically like industry. So
Oh, okay.
Medtronic, Abbott Vascular, Edwards, Boston Scientific, all
Okay.
of those companies.
Okay. So they're kind
Yeah,
of
they're
in.
industry sponsored trials.
Oh, okay. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really interesting.
Yep.
Um,
We actually, real quick, did a COVID trial here. We helped get remdesivir approved.
oh,
Yeah.
wow. That's kind of crazy. Was that a different, did you have to take a different approach with that just because it wasn't specifically cardiac focused or?
Yeah, we've done like sepsis trials before. We've done other ICU trials, but this was different because it was so fast to roll
Mhm.
out
Yeah.
um, because it was so needed. So it was a different approach for sure, but we only had a few patients in it, but it's still good.
Yeah. You probably would have a lot more now.
Yes, yeah, we would. But now
Um,
they can just get the drugs, so that's good.
yeah, that is good. So I guess if somebody is listening to you talk right now and they're like, wow, that sounds like a really cool job. Like, we talked a little bit about a tip that you would give to somebody that's interested in nursing, but if somebody's interested in doing like, let's say a research track or slant to nursing, like, is there anything that you would suggest them doing to prepare themselves for something like that?
Not really. I think for me, it was super helpful um, to again work on the floor. You learn so much so that if you do want to go into research, you have that background.
Hmm.
I really emphasize working on the floor. I can't emphasize it enough. You
It's
learn so much.
It seems almost like a trial by fire thing. Like you go into that and experience, and you're just like you really just learn all of the basic skills of nursing, and then you have all these different avenues you can apply it to.
Yep.
So we're
Let's just say I don't think we would ever hire a new grad.
oh,
Everyone that works in research has had experience.
yeah. Well,
Yep.
and I think that's an important point to be made for sure. Again, if somebody's interested
Hmm.
in that type of position. So we've talked about how you've done floor work, how you've worked as cardiac research nurse, but obviously you have other friends who are nurses, and I'm sure they kind of like sprinkle the entire field of nursing. So what are some other things that you know of that folks do with like nursing degrees?
Like I said, a lot of people will work on the floor, go get their nurse practitioner. Um, I mean, you can go anywhere. Usually you want to start on the floor like a med surg department, and then you kind of see everything. If you want to go into surgery, you know, if you want to go into special, like in the cardiac cath lab, they'll want you to work on the cardiac floor first, or in the ICU or the emergency department. So, I don't know, basically, you're just going to have to step your way up into more specials, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true for like I think like the traditional healthcare, like working in a hospital. But I mean, again, full disclosure, students,
Yeah.
Kelly's actually my sister-in-law, and my mom is also a nurse. And like growing up with my mom, she and Kelly kind of alluded to this, is that our mom worked in a nursing, or my mom worked in a nursing home at one point in time. So that's something, again, if you like working with an elderly population,
Oh yeah.
or like
oncology, pediatrics. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff. I thought I wanted to work in pediatrics, and then I had kids, and there's no way I could. No, like there's no way I could work in pediatrics or
Yeah.
oncology. I mean, it really takes a special person to be able to help, care for those patients.
Oh, for sure. And there's community health, like if you worked,
Yep. Public health.
Public health is also another avenue. There's traveling nurses. Do you know any traveling nurses?
I do. They really like it. I think what they struggle with is you go somewhere, you familiarize yourself with that hospital, and then you get pulled to go somewhere else. But if you are single, you're not tied down to, a city. It is a great way to make some money.
Oh yeah, that's what I've heard. It's very
and to learn, but
yeah,
it's a good money maker for sure.
Yeah, and it might not
and
actually
to live in parts of the country where you may never have had a chance before.
Yeah. Do you think home health, does that fall under community nursing?
Yep. I have some friends that work for the health department in Missoula. I think that's also tough too, well, especially right now with COVID and everything. But yeah, I can't remember doing public health class or clinical nursing school. I don't remember doing anything like that, but
yeah. Let's see. So we've slowly but surely worked our way through a lot of my questions. What do you love about your job?
I love the flexibility with my job. Working night shift, it was tough, and I didn't realize it, but I was grumpy a lot, I think, just because you're just
not living above
constantly switching schedules, and but I love how my job is different every day. Some days I'm dealing with patients all day long. The other days I'm just sitting at my desk catching up on paperwork or, emails, more administrative stuff. It's just the variety of things that I get to work on. It's not the same. It's not monotonous. It's fun. Yeah. And I like the people I work with.
Yeah.
So that's super helpful.
Oh, I think that always makes a world of difference. I think if you have a good community around you and you're kind of intellectually engaged, if you're the type of person, like that's kind of the happy spot for a lot of folks. I guess how would you feel like the work-life balance is? And I think that's probably pretty specific. Like we've talked a little bit about this. For the profession of nursing, it probably depends on where you're at in your career.
Yeah, what I liked about floor nursing was that when you clock out, you're done. You really don't take it home with you. My job currently, a little bit I bring home, but most of the time I can leave it, at work. And I only work 4 days a week. I work Monday to Thursdays, 8 to 5. So as a nurse, you don't get a much better schedule than that,
Yeah.
So it's pretty great. No weekends, no holidays.
Wow.
It's very nice. But I paid my dues for sure.
Yeah. So I guess to kind of lead into, like, I don't want to say what do you hate about your job, but what are some kind of downsides to it that maybe some folks might not consider?
I miss patient care. I miss like interacting with the patients. And I also feel like not being on the floor, I've lost a lot of my skills.
Hmm.
I draw blood a lot and things like that, but just the knowledge of, new medications that are coming out.
Mhm.
I'll walk up on the floor to talk to a patient. I'm like, oh, that's a new IV pump. I have no idea how to use that. Or, things like that. Because we'll start a trial and we'll have to infuse IV medication and I don't even know how to work the pump, or, just things that are constantly changing in healthcare. And
Mhm.
I haven't kept up on it because I haven't needed to.
Yeah.
That's been hard to deal with.
Yeah. And
I kept my job on the floor part-time for a little while, but then just all the demands, I couldn't do both. So,
yeah. Yeah. Of course.
and just talking to patients, honestly, like just to go into their rooms and talk to them and get to know them. That's what I miss the most.
Yeah, because I think individuals who usually go into like a profession like nursing, you go into it to help people, and so often it's I think a little bit more rewarding to help people when you're invested in them. And so
Mhm.
when you don't get to have those personal interactions, I think it becomes a little bit harder because you're just you're removed from that real human touch of things.
Mhm.
Um, I guess so like again, this is for students who are like maybe in their first or second year of college. Like, do you have any like again, it doesn't even have to be related to like the field of nursing. Like it could be life lessons. Is there any like kind of life lesson or any kind of tip that you would give to students like as they're kind of trying to navigate, early adulthood and figuring out what they want to be when they grow up?
I would just ask around, ask people like kind of what their plans are, and maybe they can give you a different perspective
Mhm.
of, what they might do, maybe to get you to think a little bit more about what's a better fit, or what, just kind of open up the doors for other opportunities that you never thought of.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't
so.
know.
Well, I think so often people like, they'll go through their early years and their family will be like, you're going to be, an engineer when you grow up.
Yeah.
And, they go to college for engineering. And after like their second year, they look around and they're like, I really like my art class that I took as an elective. Like maybe that's what I really want to do. I don't want to be an engineer, So I think it's just like
Yeah.
that staying open to possibilities and really getting in tune with what resonates with you and not what you're being told resonates with you, I think is so important.
Right. And I've heard that like high schools now are kind of focusing on, setting kids up more for or earlier learning on the opportunities that
Mhm.
that they have. Because when I went to high school, we never talked about the future,
Yeah.
or what jobs are out there, that kind of thing. So hopefully they're doing that now. I
Yeah.
don't know.
But I mean, like even a video like this is gonna expose individuals to something that they didn't know existed. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people just primarily think of nurses as being like floor nurses, but your position I think is a unique one that people don't necessarily consider or realize exists.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, is there anything else you'd like to kind of add or plug or anything at all? Go St. Pat's.
Not that I can think of.
Okay. Well,
Just be open. I never wanted to go into cardiac, and look at me. I'm still in it, and
yeah.
loved it. I've
Yeah.
loved I've loved it every minute. So
Yeah.
I'm
Serendipitously found nursing, serendipitously found cardiac.
I
Again,
know.
yeah, I think staying
Yeah, and you know
open.
what I love about it is it's not dirty. There's not a lot of like drains. There's not a lot of you have a few incisions, but it's not a messy. There's sick people, but it's all inside. You can't see it. Oh, and like if you like adrenaline, cardiac is fun. If you don't want to work in the ICU or the ED,
Mhm.
I have coded many people
Wow,
in my
that's got to be
time, so
intense.
it's it's a good option.
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah,
Well,
that's
yeah,
it.
I don't want to take up any more of your time, but I'm going to stop recording. We can stay and chat a little bit longer, but I'm going to stop the recording here. And so, again, if anyone has any questions for Kelly, you can definitely contact me and I can pass those questions on to her. So I thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.